The morning the black SUV rolled slowly down Maple Ridge Drive, neighbors felt the air shift before anyone said a word. Curtains moved. Doors cracked open. Something important was about to happen. By sunset, everyone would be talking about the ID card that ended the HOA president's power. Daniel Harper had moved into the quiet neighborhood for peace, not politics. He kept his lawn trimmed, waved politely, and never questioned the endless stream of HOA letters that arrived like clockwork. But that Tuesday morning, a bright orange envelope taped to his mailbox changed everything. Inside was a violation notice signed by HOA President Linda Crowley, citing unauthorized exterior modifications, a charge Daniel didn't understand. He had replaced a cracked porch light, nothing more. Neighbors watched from porches as Linda approached in heels sharp enough to echo on concrete. She didn't greet him. She handed him another notice, voice cool, rehearsed, and final. Daniel listened quietly, nodding as she described escalating fines and possible legal action. But when she turned to leave, he asked a simple question: "Can you show me where that rule is written?" Linda paused, her smile thinning, and in that silent moment, the entire street sensed this was only the beginning. By afternoon, the story had spread through Maple Ridge like a summer storm rolling across dry land. Some neighbors whispered sympathy. Others warned Daniel that challenging Linda never ended well, but Daniel wasn't looking for a fight. He was looking for clarity. He spent the evening reading the HOA handbook, page by page, line by line. The document was thick with regulations about paint shades, mailbox designs, and lawn edging, yet nothing mentioned porch lights. Still, the violation notice cited section numbers that seemed official enough to intimidate anyone into compliance. The next morning, Linda returned, this time with a clipboard and a polite but rigid smile. She informed Daniel that fines would begin accumulating daily. Her tone suggested the matter was procedural, inevitable, already decided. Neighbors lingered nearby, pretending to check mail or water plants. Daniel listened calmly. He asked again for the specific rule text. Linda tapped her clipboard and said the association's legal team would handle further questions. Her words felt less like answers and more like a door closing. As she walked away, Daniel noticed something else: no one ever questioned her authority. Not once. That realization stayed with him long after the street grew quiet, and that night, he began searching beyond the HOA handbook. Records buried deep in the county website rarely draw attention, but Daniel had spent years navigating municipal systems in his professional life. What he found after 2 hours of searching made him lean back slowly in his chair. Maple Ridge HOA operated under bylaws filed nearly 20 years earlier, and those bylaws required architectural violations to be reviewed by a 3-member committee. No such committee existed. The next morning, Daniel printed the documents and slid them into a neat folder. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even confrontational. He simply wanted transparency. Linda arrived before noon, escorted this time by a maintenance supervisor who measured Daniel's porch area with unnecessary seriousness. She explained that continued resistance could lead to legal escalation. Her voice was calm, practiced, and meant to discourage resistance. Daniel handed her the folder. She skimmed the pages, her expression tightening for a fraction of a second before composure returned. She said she would review the materials with the board and left without another word. Across the street, Mrs. Alvarez stopped mid-sweep, watching closely. For the first time, Maple Ridge sensed something shifting beneath the surface of its tidy lawns and quiet sidewalks. That afternoon, no new notices appeared on Daniel's mailbox, but silence, he realized, can sometimes be louder than threats. 3 days passed with no word from the HOA. The quiet unsettled the neighborhood more than the warnings ever had. People were used to Linda's certainty, her decisive letters, her unwavering enforcement. Uncertainty was new. On Friday morning, an email arrived in every resident's inbox announcing an emergency HOA meeting. Attendance was strongly encouraged. No agenda details were included. By evening, folding chairs filled the clubhouse hall. Residents sat shoulder to shoulder, exchanging cautious glances. Linda stood at the front beside 2 board members who avoided eye contact with the audience. She began with routine statements about compliance and community standards. Then Daniel raised his hand. He didn't accuse. He didn't argue. He simply asked whether the required architectural review committee had ever been formed. A ripple moved through the room. Linda responded that the board handled reviews collectively. Daniel then read the bylaw clause aloud. The room fell into a silence so complete that even the hum of the ceiling fan seemed amplified. One board member shifted uncomfortably, another flipped through papers that offered no answers. For the first time, Linda looked uncertain, and Maple Ridge realized the rules they had lived under for years might not have been enforced the way they believed. The meeting ended without resolution, but conversations continued in the parking lot long after sunset. Residents compared violation notices, fine amounts, and enforcement timelines. Patterns began to emerge, inconsistencies no one had questioned before. Daniel didn't lead the discussions. He simply listened. Over the weekend, neighbors knocked on his door with folders of their own. Some contained warning letters. Others held receipts for fines paid without appeal. Each story carried the same tone, compliance born from fear of escalating costs. By Monday morning, the HOA board announced an internal review of enforcement procedures. Linda's name remained on the email signature. But the confident tone residents knew had softened into something more cautious. Still, Daniel received one final notice, a demand for immediate fine payment. This time, however, he noticed a detail others might overlook. The enforcement authorization line was unsigned. He slipped the notice into his folder and drove downtown. When he returned that afternoon, he carried a small plastic sleeve holding an official county-issued identification card, and for the first time since the dispute began, Daniel smiled. Word spread quickly that Daniel had visited the county administrative office. Speculation moved through Maple Ridge like electricity before a storm. Linda arrived that evening with measured composure, flanked by two board members. She spoke formally, requesting compliance and payment to resolve the matter. Daniel listened, then reached into his folder. He presented the county identification card and calmly explained that he had been appointed to the county's Community Oversight Advisory Panel, a citizen board responsible for ensuring homeowners associations operate within filed bylaws and state statutes. The appointment had been finalized weeks earlier. He had not mentioned it because he believed the situation could be resolved through simple dialogue. Silence spread across the sidewalk as neighbors gathered nearby. Linda's expression shifted, not in anger, but in realization. Daniel explained that his role was not punitive. It existed to ensure transparency, due process, and proper governance for residents and associations alike. The authority Linda had relied upon was not absolute, and for the first time, Maple Ridge understood that oversight worked both ways. Within days, Maple Ridge received official notice of procedural reforms. An architectural review committee was formed. Past fines were placed under review. Future enforcement actions required documented committee approval. The changes were not dramatic, but they restored something the neighborhood hadn't realized it had lost: trust. Linda remained HOA president, though her tone softened and her meetings became collaborative rather than directive. She and Daniel spoke privately once, emerging with a handshake that surprised those watching from a distance. On a clear Saturday morning, neighbors gathered for a long-postponed block party. Children rode bikes across driveways once marked by quiet tension. Conversations flowed easily, unburdened by whispered frustrations. Daniel replaced his porch light with the same simple fixture that had started it all. No notices appeared, the orange envelopes stopped. Maple Ridge felt different, not because rules disappeared, but because fairness had finally arrived, and the ID card that could have humiliated instead restored balance, reminding everyone that authority works best when guided by transparency and respect. And that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.